Hi, I'm Dick Dresher. Those of you who saw our first video will know that I'm a descendant of the Dreshers here in the Dresher Cemetery. The cemetery was originally established in 1790s. First burial was in 1804. Since then, I've buried my parents here in the mid-1980s. My brother's ashes were also scattered here in 2014. As you can tell probably by the traffic you hear going by, Dreshertown Road just is not wide enough, so they have to widen it, and that involves moving the cemetery. The cemetery will be moved about 50 yards down the road. While I'm a descendant of the original Dreshers, the cemetery is owned by the Schwenkfelder Church. The Central Schwenkfelder Church is located on Valley Forge Road in Townsend Township. So they had to have my permission and the church's permission to move the cemetery. The Schwenkfelder Church and I were concerned that the moving of the cemetery would be done properly. We have been in contact with the State Historic Cemetery Commission, and from what we can tell, everything is being done properly. That was our only concern. But some of the people that saw our original video were concerned that it would not be handled properly. So let's take a minute and introduce those people involved, which include the township manager, township engineer, the PennDOT, the Delaware Valley Planning Commission.
This is a state route to just show the work zone that we're not impeding traffic. You said, don't pave that yet. Pave that with the larger project.
My name's Kurt Ferguson. I have the great pleasure of not only being the township manager, but the executive director of the municipal authority. This project that we've been discussing is actually under the umbrella of the municipal authority, but is a wonderful example of a public-private partnership that we don't often see, involving the municipal authority, the township, the state with funding, and frankly, these wonderful people from the church. And what we're coming up with is a plan that is being assisted with people from the church, with Mr. Dresher, that will relocate the cemetery, preserve it, take maintenance responsibilities off of the good people of the church to the township. They'll have a role in the stones and the wall and the maintenance of those. We'll maintain the grass, keep them in the loop with what's happening with the site, and frankly, it'll be accessible in such a way that has never been accessible, which I think we're most excited about. This is a historic treasure that not only now can you get to, you don't have to hike to, and will be protected, it will be improved, and we're very excited about it.
Hi, my name's Jack Smythe. I am president of Bowles Smythe Associates. I'm project engineer for this Dreshertown Road project, and our firm is the engineering firm for the Upper Dublin Township Municipal Authority. One of the components of this project has been coordinating the Dresher Cemetery relocation. The roadway improvements and a new multi-use trail, a regional trail, will impact the existing site. So myself and Paul Leonard from Upper Dublin, when he was township manager, actually approached Mr. Dresher and the church before we got into the project to make sure that this was something that would be looked upon favorably. And one of the things that we really took away from that meeting, especially from Mr. Dresher, was that he didn't object to it. He wanted to make sure that it was done in accordance with the law, done sensitively, and wanted to really remain a part of the Dresher Triangle. So since that time, as we've now gotten formally into the process of design, we have gone through what's called a cemetery action plan in coordination with PennDOT, the township, our archaeologist, Mr. Dresher, and the church, to go through a step-by-step process of how all of this would happen. And one of the biggest parts was where the new site would be located. And we were very happy that there is a township-owned piece of land directly next to the existing site that we can utilize for the relocated site. And since that time, we've been working through the process with Mr. Dresher and the church as to how things would happen in regards to the disinterment and reinterment process, what the new cemetery would look like, the dimensions of the cemetery, the permits that are needed. All of it really comes into play. Accessibility, making sure there is a driveway off the road as opposed to what's out there today, which is parking on the shoulder. Where's the gate located? All of these things really are crucial to making sure that we're doing this the right way, and that's really important to us.
Hello, I'm Jerry Hebner. I'm a member of the Schwenkfelder Church. The Schwenkfelders left Europe in the 1730s because of religious persecution by the Catholics and also the government. They came to Philadelphia and settled in the outlying areas. And this includes George Dresher, his wife Maria. He had a son, Christopher, and two daughters, Anna and Maria. The Dreschers established a family cemetery and maintained it for quite a while. But realizing that it might be a problem actually in the long run, they deeded the property over to the Schwenkfelder Church, the General Conference, in June 25th, 1915. Since that time, the church has been maintaining this cemetery, but relocating the cemetery became a need because of the heavy traffic on Dreshertown Road. We are presently engaged in relocating it up the road about 50 to 75 yards, and at this point, the township will maintain it.
I'm Ken Basilick. I am the president of a firm called CHRS Incorporated. We do archaeology and historic building surveys. As part of this project, our task would be to excavate the family cemetery of the Dresher family. Part of that includes a lot of stripping with mechanical things until we expose the various burial plots that you can see the difference between the soil that's in the grave versus the subsoil surrounding it. And what we'll do is we'll be exposing the skeletal material and drawing it up, and then after it's drawn and photographed, removing it along with anything that might be left from coffins or shrouds or any of the furniture that's associated with that in terms of pins or handles for the coffins or any other material that may have been buried with the deceased. Then the material gets taken back to our lab where it gets cleaned up. It gets wrapped in acid-free paper and stored in acid-free boxes. At which point, when everybody is ready, it goes back to the people who are going to reinter it, and then they are the ones who are going to place it in the graves.
Since the church technically owns the property, the church technically owns anything that we find in the way of coffin stuff like handles and nails or anything of that sort. So the church would have to sign a piece of paper saying that they're keeping it, and then after you do that, you can do whatever you want. You can give them to Mr. Drescher. But we couldn't give them directly to Mr. Drescher because you don't own the cemetery, the church does.
Quick question,
Yes.
what would you do if you found an entire or partial skeleton?
Well, that's what we're kind of hoping to find, is because what we do is you expose it all, and then you record it in what condition it is. So you're taking photographs, you're drawing how it is as to not only the person, but the nature of the burial, whether it's a pent-roofed coffin or with the toes like you see in the 18th century, or it's square, or there was no coffin and there's evidence that they just lowered them into the ground, wrapped in a shroud. So you do most of the stuff, the wood, the cloth, that all disappears. In many cases in this area, the bones also deteriorate, so you don't necessarily find a complete skeletal material. But all of it gets mapped up before we remove it from the burial. So that's what we're anticipating. We're anticipating we're going to find most of some, particularly the later 19th century, are likely to be there. The early 19th century ones, it may only be the teeth. So It depends on the nature of the soil, how wet it is. The wetter it is, the more preservation you get.
I'm sure you'll agree that we seem to be in good hands. Jerry Hebner of the Schwenkfelder Church and I have a very good feeling about the move. But before continuing, I'd like to thank Mr. Frank Fligel for doing this video, or these videos, to help people understand what is happening. Frank is an Upper Dublin resident, a teacher, and a member of the Upper Dublin Historic Commission. The new cemetery will be about 50 yards up the road. When it is complete, it will be a welcoming site for people to come and get a taste of the historic nature of Upper Dublin Township.